Yeah, we're going to do a little bit something a little bit different tonight. We're going to talk about using backdoors and breaches as a sales methodology for a minute. Part of my job, as somebody who runs managed service providers and works with managed service providers, is occasionally doing sales and marketing events. And we found that using tools like backdoors and breaches is a great tool to use for things like that. So I want to take a second, kind of explain how we've used it successfully, how you might want to put together an event, things like that. Um, for this kind of event, it's designed to be an in-person, maybe get together either at like a I don't know, a restaurant, a bar, something like that. If you want to put together just a get together with clients specifically, but you could also take components of it and do individual like one-on-one meetings with customers. We've done both, or have a table set up at a conference. We've done that as well. So the basic framework works the same, and it's a little bit more controlled and comes off a little bit better in my perspective than just playing the game straight through with new people. The game itself is super fun, but if it has a little bit of a learning curve, and if you only have a few minutes with a customer or potential customer, especially if you're at something like a conference, structuring it a little bit and pre-planning it helps out the people who are being your incident masters. So your employees, your sales team, if it's who's doing it, I usually just send security engineers because they have a good time and it's fun to just send them out there and have fun with people. Um, or I'll do it, things like that. But yeah, kind of adjust this as fits. So the first thing that we did was, and I like, is we picked up the actual game mats. I think the game mats are a lot of fun because it adds a level of like professionalism almost to it. So it makes it more official, and they're just cool because they have like all the pieces, or all the card colors, so you can put things where they are. It keeps things nice, tidy, and organized. They actually have them on the Spearfish General Store now, so you can buy them directly there. Previously, you had to special order them with the graphics that they had provided. But yeah, that's helpful. Definitely, you'll need some decks. They have a bunch of expansions. I would pick an expansion that's in an alignment with what your offering is or partners that you work with. So if you work with Huntress, grab Huntress. If you work in the OT segment, grab the OT deck. If you're working with, Den Secure, if you're working with Red Canary, whoever you're working with, grab their expansion if it'll help. But otherwise, just grab a core deck and the expansion, and it works pretty well. You'll need that. You'll need some dice. You can have custom dice built. They're pretty cheap if you want to put something with your branding in the pack along with it. And you'll also want to print out some general instructions because we generally give away some decks of cards along with it. So we'll have like a little goodie bag for the customer with a fresh deck and maybe an expansion pack, a dice, all that stuff. And we'll tuck in some gameplay instructions like these. And then at the table themselves, we'll have some note trackers and some pens with our branding on it, all that stuff, so people can jot things down. So your normal gameplay supplies, except tuned towards make it a giveaway and also have some stuff to play with, right? From there, I actually usually stage the scenarios that we're going to work with. And I like to tune them to things that are generally familiar with the kinds of customers we're talking to. So, if we're dealing with a credit union, we might come up with a scenario that's credit union specific. If we're just at a conference or something, we'll come up with a bunch of different ones and we'll play through different tables. When we've done events with big groups, or if we're having an event where it's a marketing event, we're just inviting a bunch of customers, we might set up 3 or 4 tables each with a different scenario and let customers kind of bounce between tables so they can network with each other, meet different people, and play different scenarios throughout the night. um, when I stage these, I give a storyline, right? Because it helps out some of our engineers who just have something kind of firm and rehearsed so they can come off really, really well and they're not having to kind of fumble through some of the scenarios. um, I jot down what the general scenario is. We actually specifically pick the cards we're going to have in play. And I get rid of injection cards and things like that for these types of events because I want it to be very smooth and forward moving from a gameplay perspective. Um, so, for example, in this one, I called it, let's see, Credit Union Crisis. We did password spraying as an initial compromise, credential stuffing as a pivot and escalate, new user added as the persistence method, and HTTPS for C2 and exfil. Along with the story sheet, I went and found the MITRE link so our engineers can read up on it. We gave summaries of the different scenarios. And the idea here is that we're just coaching um, people through what they can say, where they can get more information about it so they can research this stuff before having to present to customers. And this gets everybody prepared and comfortable. Not everybody is great at just presenting on the fly. A lot of our engineers don't spend a lot of their life presenting, especially in a sales format. So helping them kind of come up with scenarios and giving them all the background they need, doing some of that legwork is super helpful. But it's also neat because you can put these things in with the care packages you're giving out, right? Like if you want to have the scenario for them to read through, you can link to the MITRE attack framework links, and you can do all that stuff. And in this case, these are some of the top threats for credit unions. So we specifically, like, all these little details specifically align to who we're presenting to. We also jot down what the primary procedures are going to be: firewall log review, SIM log analysis, endpoint security protection analysis, and network threat hunting. These were selected specifically because they align with things we offer as a service, but also because they will reveal the cards at play. So the idea here is that we're focusing on things we can actually deliver as a service to the customer and things that will work in helping them discover. And we do put the other cards out as well because it's fun to watch people just pick random stuff. And we use the procedures as a methodology of talking about what kind of tools are available to our customers and what kind of services they could look for in security offerings, right? But it's nice to keep a primary focus on the things that we use with them generally. And then, a few more scenarios. We have a startup shakedown, right? And we just basically repeat this kind of process. We'll come up with 3 or 4 different scenarios. Terrible tax season if we're dealing with CPA firms, entangled engineers if we're dealing with an engineering or construction firm, things like that. And each of these has different things that go along with them, and it tends to work pretty well. And then we also give our incident master tip sheet at the very end. So each of the people who are going to play incident master, we give them nice, clean definitions of everything they can use, and some instructions on this simplified gameplay, right? So they're able to play through these games fairly quickly. They have a little cheat sheet that they can have at the table with them or that they can read through. And ultimately, it leads for a pretty fun experience for the customer because these games tend to go pretty quickly. We only give them 10 turns like the normal game would call for. So you're thinking through this with explanations. You're talking about a 20-minute engagement maybe. And if you're thinking about it in the context of maybe at a marketing event or like a networking and social event where you're bringing in different customers and you're just saying hi to people, you can fit 2, 3 of these games in at once while still having a healthy amount of time to, hang out with each other, talk to each other, engage, and really build some rapport while being able to show off technical knowledge and introduce something kind of cool to your customers. So overall, that's how we've sort of done this. Like I said, you can do it in a lot of different scenarios, whether it's sponsoring a B-sides event or something like that and putting this out at the table. We've had really good success with that, whether it's actually just holding a whole event after hours, inviting a bunch of customers to like in Hawaii it'd be a pauhana, but a happy hour or something like that for customers. Whether it's showing up one-on-one with a customer and just walking them through a couple different scenarios as an introduction to tabletop exercises or just a new twist on them. You can use this methodology repeatedly to engage with customers in kind of a fun way. I found that it's a lot more interesting from an engineering perspective than PowerPoint decks, and I make a lot of those. And it's just a lot of fun. Like, you can really get into it. And if you're an MSSP and you want to engage in your technical community at large, have an event for MSSPs, like the local ones. That's one thing that I haven't been able to put together yet, but I've been meaning to, is just a community event, because every time we do these for customers, we always get friends that are, our peers and our competitors wanting to come also, which would be super fun because I love those guys. I'd love to play with them all. But usually when it's a customer focused event, we focus on the customers. But there it is. That's kind of the quick and dirty way to put together a Backdoors and Breaches event. Strongly suggest, if you're not doing it, give it a try, especially if you're delivering security services. The decks aren't very expensive from a marketing perspective. You can buy a whole stack of them and hand them out. They're great takeaways for customers and definitely a little more memorable than the traditional, first 5 people to my booth get a free security assessment approach. But yeah, check it out. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a great one. Bye.